Hey, what's up, Brew Crew? Opie here. Welcome back to my Brew City Garden. So today is day 1 of 10 of the straw bale conditioning process, and I will just make short videos every day through the process just to show you how to do it and what to expect as the conditioning process comes along. So again, all we're going to do is add a high nitrogen fertilizer or any source of nitrogen to these bales to activate the bacteria and other microbes that are in the bales so that they colonize and break down the straw, thus releasing those nutrients that your plants love so much. So I am using the Vigoro brand lawn fertilizer. This is the cheapest lawn fertilizer that this particular brand makes. And basically it's the cheapest lawn fertilizer you can get. There are several brands with the exact same formula. So whichever one you get is fine. Make sure you do not get a weed and feed. If I had any advice at all, just make sure there's not a weed and feed in your fertilizer. So what I like to do, you don't have to do this, I just like to do it, is I'll add this fertilizer to, I need to sharpen my knife. I need to add this to an airtight bucket just so I don't have to worry about it getting wet and starting to clump up on me. And I still have some of the exact same formula from last year in this bucket, so I'm just adding to it. All right, so that bucket is just about full. Now for day 1, we are going to add a half a cup of this high nitrogen fertilizer to each bale, and then we're going to water that in with approximately 1 gallon of water. So I don't know if you can see that, probably not, but this is a half a cup, which is the equivalent of 100 milliliters, which oddly enough with this particular fertilizer equates to 100 grams. All right guys, so this process is super simple, so definitely do not overcomplicate it. There's really nothing to it. So I'm going to take my half a cup of high nitrogen fertilizer and just simply evenly sprinkle that across the bale. All right, now that I got all the fertilizer applied to the bales, it's time to come back and water this in. Now I will add approximately 1 gallon or 2 liters per bale. Now, one mistake that I made in years past was I would see this white fertilizer sitting on top of the bales, and I would just water it and water it and water it, trying to wash it down into the bales. To be honest with you, it's just a waste of water. And, you know, it's not going to make really any difference. If anything, it might slow you down a little bit because you're going to wash out those microbes, and the water's typically cold if it's coming out of your tap. So that could actually slow things down a little. The bacteria in these bales, they will come up for that nitrogen. They're gonna get it. Not to mention, we're gonna water this every day for 10 days. So that nitrogen is gonna work its way into the bales. It's not gonna be a problem whatsoever. Now you might be wondering, how do I know how much is 1 gallon? Well, just a little trick. Go get a gallon container or a 2-liter container, and you know, with whichever spray nozzle you have, just open it up full blast into that container and count how long it takes to fill it up. That's a good way to get an idea of, you know, how close you are. With this particular sprayer, I can get 1 gallon or 2 liters in about 10 seconds. All right guys, let's get this stuff watered in. Nothing to it. All All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining me for day one of the conditioning process. Make sure you follow along for the next 9 days plus just to see how the process comes along. I'm also taking the temperatures every day just to kind of show you how the internal temperatures rise and then fall again, and when a good time to plant is. Right now, the internal temperature of these bales is about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 10 degrees Celsius. Which is about ambient temperature right now. It's actually a little bit warmer than that out here, but the bales being an insulator, obviously they take a little while longer to warm up and cool down. So just to wrap up, today, day one of the straw bale conditioning process, we added 1/2 of a cup or about 100 grams or 100 milliliters of a high nitrogen fertilizer and watered that in with approximately 1 gallon or 2 liters of water. All right, guys, and just one last note, don't get hung up on these measurements. You want to be somewhere close to what I'm doing if you're using conventional fertilizer, but this isn't rocket science, guys. You know, it's just basic chemistry, biochemistry. You give bacteria some food, they're going to eat it, and they're going to help break down the straw. So if you're a few grams over or under, or 1/4 of a cup over or under, it's really not going to make that big of a difference. And I actually know some other gardeners. If you go to CB's greenhouse and garden, he uses pure urea nitrogen and uses like a full Dixie cup per bale. So that's quite different from what I'm doing, but it still works out fine for him. If you go look at his channel, his garden is awesome. So don't get too hung up on measurements and you know, the numbers on your nitrogen fertilizer bag. As long as it's a high nitrogen source, it's gonna work. Okay, so don't fret that part. It's really not that big of a deal. All right, so with that being said, I'm gonna get out of here. Make sure you show up tomorrow for day 2 of the straw bale conditioning process. And until then, we'll see you.